Radio, that's Planet Shakers and a song called Nothing. Absolutely nothing is impossible. Time right now, 14 minutes past 2 o'clock. And as promised, we have Gareth Cliff on the line. Gareth, good afternoon.
How are you? I'm sorry it's been so difficult to get hold of me.
No, you're very busy. Gareth, how do we describe you? 5FM breakfast DJ, SA Idols judge, all-round, well-known South African personality. I know you don't like the tag celebrity.
No, I just think that if you're described by a what rather than a who, it disadvantages you. But I'm prepared to not be picky. Go ahead and call me whatever you like. I've been called a lot worse.
I'm sure you have. Gareth, you are one of the most powerful people in the country.
How do you say that?
You do. No, you come on. You got to understand that. When you speak, people listen. Look at your Facebook page. 336,000 odd people liking your Facebook page. 167,000 followers on Twitter. And I believe, I don't know how true it is, but I believe you've got the largest Twitter following in South Africa.
I believe so.
Yeah. So in other words, you say something and people listen. People, you have that sort of power at your fingertips, and that must be quite a thing for you to live with, to deal with. How do you deal with that?
I don't think about it too much. Being famous or powerful was never a goal of mine. And I've always been more interested in doing something that I enjoy doing, and radio is one of those things. Mm-hmm. And from radio has come television, which is not my favorite bedfellow. I'm actually not very comfortable on television. I like Idols because I can just be myself. Yep. And I just have to arrive, say what I think, and leave. So it's easy.
Well, they do say that the pictures are always better on radio. So,
exactly. I totally agree with you.
They really are. Where did your love for radio come from, Gareth? Who inspired it?
I don't think that there's anyone in the world who hasn't listened to radio at some point and thought, wow, there's magic in this. Mm-hmm. There's something very special about the way that you can paint pictures with words and create scenarios and stories that every person listening sees in different vivid brushstrokes. And it's a very, very powerful medium. I still love radio more than any other. Mm-hmm.
And where did the love start? What station did you listen to as a young boy?
I used to listen to 702, which was music and talk at the time I was growing up. Now it's a talk radio station in Johannesburg. Yeah. And I used to listen to a guy called John Burks, who I ended up taking over the morning show from on 702.
That must have been awesome, eh? I mean, you grow up listening to him, and then one day you fill his shoes. Well, no one can fill John Burks' shoes, but you stepped into them, sort of thing.
It was quite something. I mean, it's a very special feeling, and he and I have remained good friends. I saw him not so long ago. It was his birthday, 2 days before mine. Mm-hmm. And we were meant to have lunch with him today, but he wasn't feeling well. So I keep in contact. He really is a legend.
I saw a picture of you with him and I think Dennis Smith a while back as well.
That's right. Dennis Smith. There's another madman from radio.
Springbok radio days, long time ago. Gareth, I can't interview you or even just chat to you without mentioning the whole shock jock thing, the title people have given you. When I announced a few days back that I was going to be chatting to you, I got a few messages, a lot of good ones saying, I wouldn't miss that for anything, but a couple of people naturally saying things like, what do you want to talk to him for? He's so self-opinionated.
I'm always amazed, though. Look, first of all, I don't go out of my way to shock. This is some misconception that I think is created by people who imagine that I'm looking for attention, and I'm really not. I say what I think, and if it offends people, then I have to take the heat for it. If it makes people smile, it makes them laugh, then I'm happy to take the credit for it. But I'm certainly not playing to a field of supporters here. Radio's for free. Yep. So you listen because you want to, and not because anyone's got a gun to your head. Mm-hmm. And if I say something that upsets you, well, I'm very sorry, but I kind of have to stick to what I really believe, because if I were playing to you and I was trying to be popular and I was an attention seeker, you'd probably find me very boring.
Exactly. So you're very forthright in a sense and very honest.
I try to be. Look, I think everybody, there's a degree pretend that goes on in radio. But I let my listeners in on that because I don't really believe it's a presentation. I believe it's a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all the difference in the world in that distinction. Having said that, you mentioned the shock jock thing and the fact that I get into trouble for my opinions some of the time. I don't understand why South Africans are frightened to have opinions.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I don't mean everybody. There are obviously lots of people who understand that it's a good thing to have an opinion. To me, there is no reason to be free unless you're allowed to have opinions. In other words, either you must have opinions or you are subjecting yourself to slavery.
Yep.
And there's a very clear distinction. I don't think there's a person we'll find in the world who will say, oh, I'd rather be a slave.
Yeah.
So the corollary must apply that if you're not going to be a slave and you're not content to be a slave, you must at least have your own freedom of thought.
Exactly.
And if you have a freedom of thought, you will have people who dissent and who disagree. And how you handle that is more important than the fact that you've upset them.
Gareth, I agree 100% with you. I think anyway, a lot of the time the things you say are what we all talk about at our dinner tables anyway. A lot of people are just too scared to talk up and say what they really feel about, say, the political situation or this or that.
When they're around a bunch of people who agree with them.
Exactly.
But you never get anywhere in a discussion unless you've heard the opposite point of view. It always worries me when I hear people like Julius Malema or people who have a very forthright and unaltered opinion their entire lives. I'm open to my mind being changed, and the only way that will happen is by talking to people who don't agree with me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're going to sit at dinner parties where everyone agrees, you're never really having conversations that build anything, because all you're doing is you're sitting, you're agreeing, and you all go home self-satisfied. It's not good enough. If we're going to move ahead in this country, we need to get to a point where we're comfortable to disagree.
Exactly, and be honest and talk.
Yeah, and disagreeing with someone does not mean you're their mortal enemy.
Exactly. So Gareth, what do you think of what's going on at the moment in South Africa? I know you are very positive about the future of South Africa. I've read that quite a bit.
Yeah.
But with what's happening at the moment, the last week, the whole, I don't want to get too political or anything, but the Julius Malema story, the big story at the moment, what's actually going on?
Well, it's interesting you say that. I had Julius Malema's biographer, a woman called Fiona Ford, on my show this morning. Mm-hmm. Fascinating woman, and she's followed him for months and written a very comprehensive and the first proper characterization of the man. I think we're obsessed with personality cults in this country. Mm-hmm. Maybe some people who listen to me do for the same reasons that some people follow Julius. I discourage people from doing that. Mm-hmm. I think you have to look at the issues and you have to look at the things that are being discussed. And what this whole thing is right now is a power play. It's a big fight over who has the most influence. Mm-hmm. It's nothing short of, if you'll pardon my abusive language here, it's a cock-size competition between the ANC and the ANC Youth League, and it's childish. Mm-hmm. But someone's going to win, and whoever wins will end up being the most powerful grouping or center of power in the country.
So it's not so much then about him and the whole case about bringing the ANC into disrepute and all of that. It's more about power.
Now, his lawyers are even arguing that it should be dismissed outright because the charges were not laid properly. Mm-hmm. So it's clearly not about this. It's really about either the ANC bringing him into line and taking action and stamping on what they regard as an internal rebellion, mm-hmm. or it's about Julius Malema asserting himself over the old guard.
We had a story in our 1 o'clock bulletin, Amanda Goos from the University of Stellenbosch. She was saying
Very intelligent woman, man.
Yes, she is. She was saying that if they do say, okay, fine, we'll drop the charges, that's going to be demonstrating a lot of weakness and actually saying that the Youth League is running the country.
It'll be taken as a victory by Julius and his supporters, who, I might add, there may be some very intelligent people in the Youth League, but they're not in charge. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, rabble-rousers and demagogues have taken over there, and the language that we're using at the moment in our politics is puerile. It's the kind of language that you would have found among French revolutionaries before they started cutting off people's heads. It's not constructive, and it doesn't get us anywhere. When we start talking about nationalize this and grab land like that, it's just divisive. Yep. And it's destructive. It doesn't help anyone. I think even our president and our deputy president realize that.
Uh-huh. And mentioning them, and then we'll get on to idols. They're both out of the country at the moment. So who's running the country at the moment? If we had a major catastrophe, who's in charge?
Apparently, Jeff Gerber is the acting president. Jeff Gerber is the Minister of Justice.
Okay.
Who has more or less bungled the supposed replacement Chief Justice, Mogoeng.
Okay.
I don't know what's happening. I think that both of them are avoiding their responsibilities. It's too hot for them to be here right now.
Mm-hmm.
So they're imagining that the perception of people will be that because they weren't involved, because they weren't here during the disciplinary hearing, that somehow they're not behind it.
Okay. Gareth, what irks you the most? What is the one thing that really upsets you, that gets to you?
Well, if you ask me what I like the most, because I prefer construction.
I'm going to.
Yeah, no. I think what I like the most in people is a curiosity, is a desire to know and to understand. You can never really know everything, but you can damn well try. Mm-hmm. And I find that the opposite is probably something I do despise in people, is just an ignorance and an inability to desire to know more. There are people in the world who settle for knowing just enough.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a terrible thing to do to your brain. It's a terrible thing to waste freedom and knowledge on. Mm-hmm. And people like that really just take up space. They're organic creatures that consume and destroy and create waste.
Okay. So be inquisitive, in other words.
I think so. I think you can never, ever fail by asking questions. You can always fail by just accepting answers.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that happens. A lot of people are just quite content to sit back and take whatever happens and not question.
And South Africans in particular, I find that because we were so abused in the past, black and white, a lot of people talk about how the apartheid government subjected black people to a whole lot of things, and they did, obviously. This is history. It's not novelty. Mm-hmm. But white people were given no credit when they asked questions and were punished for their inquisitiveness before. There was no such thing as a free press before. There was no such thing as open state information and transparency. Uh-huh. We take these for granted now, but the previous government, Magnus Malan died not so long ago. Yeah. That man never owned up to a single thing that he did in his disgusting life while he was alive, and he refused, point blank, to take responsibility either in front of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission or anywhere else. He was just completely arrogant the entire way through his life, and he died earning a salary from a free South Africa that he did not deserve.
Mm-hmm. Well, Gareth, you should write a book. Have you written a book? No, what's it called?
No, it's coming. It hasn't come out yet.
Okay, I was going to say, I didn't know about that.
We're having some fun with it. Look, it's not going to be too serious because I think we need to laugh more. Yep. And it's probably going to be ready by November.
Okay.
I finished writing it. We're just waiting for the publishers to do all the final things.
Okay,
And it should be available in November, but I'm glad you asked. Thank you.
Is it a sort of autobiography or
no, God, no.
comment?
Who wants to read about me? No, not about
You're an interesting person. Come on.
No, I don't... This is that personality cult thing I just warned you about, and you've gone and gone down the same road.
No, I don't do that at all. I'm not into the whole celebrity thing myself. But you are interesting.
It won't be autobiographical because I do think, my life is not interesting enough yet. Maybe one day when I've lived and I have more stories to tell.
Okay, well, let me show you an interesting picture of your life. Okay, yeah. This is radio, so I'll show you. You sitting in front of the Idol stage. You've got the contestants up there. A lot of people look up to you, and you are, in inverted commas, Gareth Cliff, whether you want to be that or not. Take yourself back a number of years to primary school. When you were sitting in a bench in maths or whatever, what did you want to be one day when you were big? I was playing in the sandpit once, and I was a little kid. This was long before primary school. Mm-hmm. And I said to my mum, I want this. I held a handful of sand, and she said, what is it you want? And I said, I want this. She said, is it the sandpit? I said, no. And she said, what is it you want? The sand? I said, no. She said, what do you want, Gareth? And I said, everything. So I think there was a bit of megalomania that set in early on. But I've got past the stage where I think I can own or change the world. Mm-hmm. I think now all we can do is make enough small differences to have left the world better than we found it. Okay.
So I don't know. When I was little, for a while I wanted to be like everybody, a rock star. For a while I wanted to be an architect. For a while I wanted to be a politician. For a while I just wanted to teach history. Because that's still the subject I love the most.
Wow. And now you've got one of the nicest jobs in the world.
Really. I do love my job. I do love it. The worst part of my job is waking up.
I was just going to say, what time do you get up in the morning?
About 4:30.
Wow. Okay.
But the way I see it, if your worst thing about your job is over first, the rest of your day is wonderful.
True. Quite true. Gareth, let's get to idols quickly.
Sure.
It's the
From the sublime to the ridiculous.
From the sublime to the ridiculous, yes. Now, that's all about celebrity culture. Come on. I've been chatting to the evictees, if there is such a word, over the last few weeks as well, and asking them how they felt about being sort of said goodbye to. And what I'm picking up...
Has any one of them complained, by the way?
Complained about going home?
About the whole process and about how unfair it is and how terrible it is.
No.
None of them.
One of them yesterday did tell me, though, that they saw you. I asked them, I said, haven't you got anything on Gareth Cliff for me? What can I ask him about tomorrow afternoon? All live on air, of course. And apparently you were playing video games or something, which amused her. Aaron.
It must have been Aaron. I was playing
Aaron.
Plants vs. Zombies on my iPad, which is my current obsession.
That's
See, I'm not clever all the time, and I'm not even funny all the time. Sometimes I'm just a geek who plays computer games because I don't want to talk to people.
Why are you so hard on some of those kids? That's what people want me to ask you.
But do you think I am?
Do
you think I am? Would you
sometimes
be any different?
You're honest. You're honest. And sometimes you need honesty. If somebody stands up there and they cannot sing, they need to be told that.
But then you must abuse me with the question of whether I'm being hard or not, because already you've answered your own question.
It depends on how you say it, though. It depends on...
No, hang on. This is not a question of style, because what we're talking about here is the truth.
Okay.
And the truth, ungarnished, is the truth, the same as the truth is if it's garnished. I can tell you that I think that you're rubbish, or I can say, well, I didn't really like that, but I thought you did the last verse very well. The chorus was okay.
Or your shoes look nice. I heard that the other night.
No, well, this is the point. I mean, the time I've finished the second of the explanation, you've fallen asleep. We don't have time on television for this.
Okay.
I can't be... If we see 1,000 people, which is roughly the number we see during the auditions, there is absolutely no way we have time. And I said to Unati and in my first audition, Danny Kaye, I said, come on, hurry up, because we've got things to do.
Yeah.
Can't sit here all day listening to singing.
Who's going to win?
That's a very difficult question. And I'm not going to sidestep it because I really don't know. So again, to be honest, if I told you I thought anyone was going to win, I would be lying to you. This would be the first time I've actually given it any thought. People think I think about these things.
You're known for being accurate. You're known for being accurate in previous years with your...
Yeah, I've been off the boil the last week, though. I didn't guess Aaron and Danae would go.
Hey, I did, eh? Both of them.
Well done.
Mark and I chatted about it the other day, and
then you're more in touch than I am.
I'm just a voter.
No, you know what? I haven't thought about it because the winner isn't important to me.
Okay.
It really doesn't matter to me. The winner is the last 5 minutes of the final show of a 6-month season.
Yeah.
That's the least important part of the entire competition.
Okay.
I mean, by then, if you only start watching for the last 5 minutes, you've missed the whole thing.
Yeah, true.
So the winner's not important. Plus, remember that's the most attention that winner's ever going to get. And this is where people have unrealistic expectations. A lot of people think, oh, well, that's the start of someone's career.
Yeah.
But actually, if you start right up there with 6 million people watching you on television,
then where are you going to climb to? Exactly.
You can only go down from there. And it's very unfair when people say to me, oh, but, why is Elvis Blue not at the MTV Awards, and why has this one not sold 20 million CDs? And I said to him, well, first of all, there's only a population in this country of X number. Of that number, only about 1 million actively buy CDs. And what do you expect the guy to do?
Exactly. Okay. Gareth.
Yes.
In closing, what is the one question that you've always wished somebody would ask you and they never have? Is there one?
I like to ask people one question, whether I know them well or I don't. And it's something that never comes up in interviews, because interviews always have to be here's the question because this is the answer I'm expecting.
Yeah.
And often in interviews, I'm even guilty of this a lot of the time. You don't listen. You're too busy preparing your next question. But the thing I like to ask people, it sounds silly, but are you happy?
Good one.
And I think if people answer that they're happy, then you really know you're talking to someone who's found some secret. Because that's the whole point. There's nothing else that matters. If you're happy, all is well.
Is Gareth happy?
I'm happy.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. There we go. You've been asked.
Thank you.
Gareth, thank you so much for your time. I could chat all day. I enjoyed chatting to you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure to talk to you.
Next time you're in East London, pop into the studio and say hi. What do you think of East London, by the way? I know you are hard on PE. Come on.
I'm very rude to PE because they have no sense of humor about the fact that you're allowed to take the piss out of them every now and then.
Okay.
East London, it seems, has a much more healthy opinion of itself. And every time I've been there, I've always had a very good time.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gareth. All the best, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for chatting. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
There we go. Gareth Cliff live from Johannesburg.